Hi, and welcome to the Efficient Bodies assets. So in this video, we'll be covering the requirements, the getting set up with the example project, and the implementation into your own project. Starting with the requirements, so Efficient Bodies requires that your character's mesh is made up of skeletal mesh components. If the character uses posable mesh components or any other type, the asset simply won't work. For the ragdoll effect, your character mesh must have a physics asset. If you don't have physics assets, the Unreal Engine mannequin, the template mannequin physics asset can work for humanoid meshes. But if your character cannot ragdoll properly, then the bodies simply cannot ragdoll properly. Um, with this in mind, you can still use the respawn and the dissolve animation and just set it so that the bodies don't ragdoll by setting the dissolve time to start dissolving immediately. But this means that you won't really be able to use the object pooling feature. Speaking of dissolving, so all base materials for your meshes should not be opaque. So if they're set to opaque, you can just change them to masked, and that allows the dissolve animation to actually change the opacity mask between your material and the dissolve animation. Changing it from opaque to masked won't actually affect your material look at all um, until the dissolve animation comes into play. It's also worth noting that Efficient Bodies also works with modular character meshes, as long as these meshes also are skeletal mesh components. There's an image in the document under requirements that will show you a little bit more about what I mean. Anyway, so if we jump into getting set up with the example project, once you add the Efficient Bodies asset to your project, the example should just be ready to go. So if I open up the content browser, navigate to Efficient Bodies, Example Content, Maps, and then the example map, I should be able to just run it straight out of the box. Preparing shaders, there we go. So you can see I'm using the Quinn mannequin, and if I ragdoll, she should just dissolve. Perfect. I've also set it so that I think the max body count is 5. Yeah, that looks like 5. And then the default settings that I've got, I think, is 3 seconds before a body starts to dissolve, and then the dissolve takes 2 seconds. Alright, now that we're in, I've downloaded this rogue character model asset from the Fab Asset Store, and I'll be using this model as sort of my games model, so to speak. And then I'll show you how to implement the Efficient Bodies components for this model. So to start, I'm actually just going to open up Efficient Bodies and head over to my example map, just so that there's a little bit less going on. And if we have a look, we should be able to see that everything is running as expected. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is just change the game mode to use my rogue character model. So if I just come here and edit, I should be able to just select my rogue character model, and then check to see if everything's running. Perfect, so there's my rogue character model. And now we want to implement the Efficient Bodies component on that model. So if I just navigate to this model, and I'll open that up, I'll also just open up my example content model. There we go. So if we look at implementation into your own projects in the documentation, the first step is to just add the component. So let's go ahead and do that. Efficient Bodies, there we are. And then to use Efficient Bodies component, you need to call the kill player or the respawn player functions. Now for example purposes, or demonstration purposes rather, I've added some input actions to control these two functions. So I'll just go ahead and copy that from my example character. Let's just reroute that node there and there. Perfect. So that's the input mapping context, and let's also just copy the input actions, which control, as you see, kill player and respawn player. Perfect. So now we should be able to come back to our example map, and there we are. The ragdoll sorry, the model ragdolls as expected. But as you can see, the dissolve and respawn animations aren't working at the moment. And that's the second step of implementing a Turing project, which is just copying in the dissolve function to your materials. So if we head to our character and we head to our mesh, you'll see I have a few materials here. So if I come into these materials, the material base, and then navigate to my efficient bodies assets, asset content, materials. Here I have material function dissolve main. So I can just drag that in there and I'll copy it to make it easier for the other materials. Emissive connects to emissive color. Opacity mask, because I already am using opacity mask, I'm just going to drag that with Control F click to the input opacity mask and then connect the outputs to the output. And as you see on the left, the material still looks exactly the same. Excuse me. So we'll just close that and apply the same to all of the materials. So paste, emissive color. This material is opaque, so I'm just going to change that to masked and then connect to the opacity mask. Apply. Open up the next one. Paste, emissive color, change it to masked, opacity mask, apply, metal, same thing, change this from opaque to masked, apply. Excellent. So I've done the main meshes, but any child meshes that you have for your modular character should need the same done. But if I look at the main mesh, I've done the cloth, I've done the leather A, leather B, and the metal. So I can see on this child mesh, I've done leather B and metal, so I've done those already. On the mantle, I've done cloth, metal, leather B, so I need to do the cape proxy. So we hit here, paste that in, emissive, mask, change it to masked blend mode, apply and save. Head down to the rogue hood, leather A is done, and I just need to apply it to the head as well. Alright, so emissive color has already been used. We'll drag that to the input, drag that out, and then also change the blend mode to masked. Perfect. And that should be all. So now I should be able to ragdoll my character and have that respawn and dissolve animation. Excellent. So as you see, all the bodies are working as expected now. If you have any questions, please feel free to check out my Discord. Link is at the top of the documentation. Thank you for watching.